Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to What If Deku Had Perfect Combo Part 3. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. We continue on the second day at UA with Izuku and his classmates waiting around for their next class to start when All Might enters the room shouting his famous phrase, "I am here," surprising everyone, but they're also ecstatic that the number one hero is actually going to teach their class. Once All Might makes it to the podium at the front of the room, he announces that for today's class they'll be doing combat training. All Might then presses a button to reveal containers from out of the wall and tells all the students that they should get geared up like a pro would for this exercise, and as everyone grabs their costumes, All Might tells them to meet him at Ground Beta once they've changed and leaves while they head off to the locker rooms. Outside at Ground Beta, after some time has passed, Class 1A arrives wearing their hero outfits ready for anything, even impressing All Might with how much they already look like pros. Izuku, being one of the last to arrive, has a unique costume himself, wearing a dark green short-sleeved and leg jumpsuit that is covered in light green fire print, also wearing sports sneakers and multiple pockets along with a backpack full of different kinds of light flammable objects for him to use, with it all naturally being fireproof, and also has a visor to protect his eyes from fire or heat. When Uraraka notices Ryu's costume, she runs over to him complimenting how cool it looks, where she admits her regret for not being more specific about her outfit's design, but Izuku, while slightly blushing, says to Ochako, "Well, I mean, yours isn't that bad. I like the space theme, it really suits you, and if you don't mind me saying, you look really good." This makes Uraraka smile as she thanks Ryu for the sweet compliment, making him blush a little more as they both continue to talk to each other. However, Bakugo eventually butts in to brag about his costume being way better, but after a short bit, Ida interrupts their conversation telling them, "Hey, stop messing around. All Might is speaking about the training exercise and you should be paying attention. At least show the symbol of peace some respect." Ida then points to All Might, who is explaining the combat training. Once Ochako and Izuku realize this, they embarrassingly cease talking, whilst Bakugo just crosses his arms in frustration, listening to All Might explain the training. After All Might explained everything to the class and answered all their questions, he pairs up students into teams of two, splitting half of those teams into a villain category while the others are heroes, with all the matchups then randomly determined. During this, the first match is decided to be Team Ida and Bakugo, who are the villains, against Team Uraraka and Izuku, who are the heroes. When all the other matchups are decided, All Might sends the first two teams to the building where the first round will take place, while him along with the rest of the class head to the observation room to watch and evaluate their performance. Inside the building, as Bakugo and Ida are getting ready for the match to begin, they actually talk about some plans and strategies, though Kaken is mostly just listening to his teammates' ramblings. That is until Ida, who's already trying to act like a villain, asks his partner in crime about his and Izuku's quirks, which Bakugo plainly replies, "I'll tell you my quirk once you tell me yours, but as for Ryu, he can make fire either with his hands or by breathing it and can control it. There's not much else to say that's important for you to know, except that you don't need to worry about what he can do. Ryu's mine to fight, so stay out of my way." Ida, a little confused, asks Bakugo why he wants to fight Izuku by himself, and after a brief moment of silence, Kaken answers, "Because me and Ryu have been rivals for a long time. We both want to surpass All Might, and as far as I'm concerned, he's my only real obstacle here at UA. I want to settle who's the best today, which I can't do if you're helping me, but knowing Izuku, he'll play this like a nerd, so we'll see what happens. No matter what though, don't underestimate him." Ida, understanding a little better, agrees to stay out of the way as much as possible and proceeds to talk about his quirk, with Kaken reluctantly doing the same as they finish preparing. Meanwhile, outside of the building with Izuku and Uraraka, as they both discuss a plan of attack, they eventually reach the topic of their quirks, explaining to one another how their abilities work, and as soon as Ryu finishes talking about his, Ochako starts to praise his quirk and how it works, saying, "Wow, Ryu, it's so awesome how you have a combination of your parents' quirks. You really got lucky. I know there's a lot of people who'd love to have a power like yours. You'll definitely be a great hero with it." Uraraka smiles at Izuku, but he looks down a little unsure about the compliments, and while looking at his hand, he replies, "Thanks, it is kind of cool, but if I'm being honest, I don't always feel lucky to have this quirk. There's always been some issues ever since it awoken." Ochako, hearing this, brushes the comment off, saying that there's no way it's that bad, but Ryu quietly responds, "But it's dangerous. I don't like using it against other people, because I worry about hurting them too much. As you can guess, with a strong quirk like mine, if I'm not careful and lose control, then some bad things can happen. It's just a little concerning, you know. I guess I'm kinda scared of it. Uraraka is a little taken aback by Izuku's words, but after looking at his face she realizes there's more going on. So she just grins and cheerfully says, "Well, I can see your point, but since you care so much about not hurting people, it means you're a really good person, which is even better for a great pro to have than a strong quirk in my opinion. So don't look so down, okay? And besides, no matter what happens, I'll always be your #1 fan." Ochako then gives a thumbs up to Midoriya, slightly cheering him up, and as they both get back to talking, Uraraka thinks of something and, slightly concerned, asks another question. "So wait, since you and Bakugo are such good friends, does that mean you won't use your quirk against him whatsoever?" Izuku stands up with a determined look on his face and replies, "Oh, actually no. While me and Kakin are good friends, heck maybe even best friends, I won't hold back. I know he can take whatever I throw at him, plus he'd probably kill me if I didn't." Ryu then sits back down a little embarrassed and continues after a short pause, "Don't get me wrong, I might be a little worried to use my quirk, but I can use it against villains or Bakugo, but I'll still be pretty cautious about how I utilize my abilities. It's a whole thing that I shouldn't be getting into right now." Ochako looks at Ryu again and leans back, saying, "I get that, but if you ever want to talk about it, Ryu, then I'm happy to listen if you need me." Uraraka gets a little embarrassed saying this and looks away from Izuku, who is blushing himself, but before any more could be said, All Might, speaking through a microphone, announces that the first match of the combat exercises begins now. This signals the start of the training, as the hero team wastes no time in infiltrating the building with the use of Ochako's zero gravity to get up to an open window inside the building. As Izuku and Uraraka slowly make their way through the halls, Ryu progressively makes small amounts of fire while creeping around, either by breathing little bursts of flame every so often or by pulling flammable objects out of his pockets and setting them on fire, all in preparation to face his opponents. A short time later, as the two arrive at a small room, Bakugo jumps out from an adjacent corridor and strikes, setting off an explosion that hits Izuku as he steps in front of Uraraka to shield her from the blast. This forces Midoriya back a few feet with Ochako, but both are overall fine with only small scuffles here and there. Kakin then moves forward to use another explosion, but before he can, Ryu sends a handful of small pre-made fireballs towards his rival, which do successfully hit, causing Bakugo to be pushed away a couple of feet, taking some damage in the process. After a brief second, Kakin gets into an intimidating fighting stance and smirks at Izuku, curiously asking, "Damn, not bad, Ryu. Let me guess, you slightly weakened the fire from my explosion so you wouldn't take as much damage, right?" Izuku confirms Bakugo's question with a nod, breathing out some fire to make more projectiles, while Kakin retorts, "I knew it. You always did that when we would train. You've always thought up of little tricks to give you an edge, but even so I won't lose." Saying this, Bakugo sets off an explosion to propel himself forward and attack while shouting, "It's time to see which one of us is the best. Give me everything you got." As Kakin is approaching Ryu, he attempts to use a combined explosion, but Izuku quickly sends more fireballs at him, abruptly forcing Kakin to switch from offense to defense, using his attacks to dodge or block the incendiary attacks. During this distraction, Midoriya breathes more fire and combines it with the remainder of his already created flames, shaping it all into a wall of fire that completely blocks off an entire side of the room and uses it to keep Bakugo from getting any closer to use any explosions against his foes. Kakin, in response, runs up to the flame wall, setting off explosions in an attempt to break through, but his attacks barely do anything except for weakening it a small amount. Due to the strong heat emanating from the wall, Bakugo is eventually forced to back away from it to recover, and in frustration he yells out at his pyro rival, asking what the hell was this for? Which Midoriya replies, "Like you said, Kakin, I always think up little tricks. I hate to say this, pal, but now isn't the time to settle our rivalry, so me and Uraraka are going to head to the bomb. You can either meet us there or try to follow us, but fair warning, this wall will be with us the entire time and I can't see you getting through it before we make it there." Hearing this, Bakugo considers it to be a challenge and decides to take a more direct approach as he jumps forward and uses multiple explosions to pick up speed, aiming to wipe out the fiery wall. But as he reaches it, all the flames are separated into a large number of fireballs, opening the way for Kakin to attack, also revealing Ryu's grinning face as he shouts, "Ha, got you," and sends all the flaming projectiles flying at their target. But Bakugo swiftly reacts, using more explosions to increase his mobility, bobbing and weaving past the attacks, moving in close enough to where he lands a large explosion on Ryu, sending him flying into a wall, while Kakin starts to gloat, saying, "Please, I can predict you just like you can predict me. You aren't going to get out of this fight unless I get knocked out. Immediately after saying this, Kaken is slapped on the back of the head by Uraraka, who starts making him float up as she playfully says, "Well then how's about I make you float so you're an easier target?" Ochako winks at Izuku, who takes advantage of Bakugo's confusion to instantly send all his remaining fireballs to slam into his old rival, with the attacks causing slight explosions as they hit. This not only deals a large amount of damage to Kaken, but some of the flames as they hit him also knock Bakugo around hard enough to where he flies into the walls, ceiling, and floor about a couple of times, hurting him even more. After this, Uraraka then releases her zero gravity, letting him fall onto the floor, where he knocks his head on it and falls out cold. After this, Izuku sits on the ground to catch his breath while Uraraka uses the capture tape to restrain Bakugo in case he regains consciousness. Once that's all done, Ryu thanks Ochako for the assist, and while walking over to him, she replies, "It was no big deal. Don't even sweat it, just consider that as payment for saving me during the practical exam. So I guess we're even now," giving Midoriya a high five for the great tag team along with him being so awesome. Uraraka then asks Izuku if he's hurt from the fight, but he shakes his head and stands back up answering, No, I'm fine, I just needed to rest for a bit. I'm good now, let's keep moving, we don't have much time left." This answer allows Ochako to relax as her and Ryu both start moving through the building once again. With little time remaining, they finally find the bomb in a large room with Ida walking around, acting really weird. The two of them then sit by the door, hurrying to prepare themselves for the fight. Once Ryu is fully ready, he kicks open the door to the room and sends every flaming projectile he has into the room, while also charging and with Uraraka following close behind. In reaction, Ida attempts to move the bomb but is stopped by a constant barrage of fire, staggering his movements. Even though Ida keeps dodging most of the attacks, he does get hit by a few, but thanks to his costume's armor, he's able to tank through a few of the fireballs and gets incredibly close to the device. So in an attempt to stop Ida, Ryu breathes all the fire he possibly can, nearly filling the whole room with it as he sends it all towards Ida. This understandable freaks Ida out as he scrambles to avoid the literal wave of flames, having to resort to Recipro Burst to get out of the way, but this wasn't only meant for dodging. Ida, while avoiding the attack, jumps onto the wall and uses the remainder of Recipro Burst to jump off straight towards Midoriya at high speeds. Ryu tries to bring all his fire back to block, but Ida makes it to him before he can and lands a powerful kick that sends Izuku off his feet, careening into a pillar, cracking it upon impact. This knocks the wind right out of Ryu and causes all the flying fire to start falling to the ground. Ida is a little surprised by this, having expected more, but he just starts monologuing like a stereotypical villain, playing into the role more. When he looks over to the bomb and notices Ochako leaning right on it, you see when Izuku breathed a large amount of fire and sent it at Ida, Uraraka used it to cover her approach to the bomb, luckily making it there about when Ida started monologuing. So she made it just in time without really anyone noticing. Once All Might notices Ochako, he yells over the speakers, "The hero team wins. Well done everyone, if you're injured please wait for Recovery Girl and some medical bots to make sure you're fine or take you to the infirmary if needed, but otherwise come to the observation room to go over your performance during the exercise." As soon as All Might finishes speaking, Ochako runs over to Ryu to make sure he's okay, asking if anything is broken, but Izuku assures her that he's fine and uses the pillar to slowly stand back up. While this is happening, Ida continues to talk in his villain voice, cursing them for thwarting his diabolical scheme and that he shall have his vengeance. Which is when Midoriya looks at Ida with an exhausted expression saying, "Just please stop, Ida. My back is killing me. Don't get me wrong, your bad acting is pretty funny, but I can't keep listening to it anymore." In response, Ida takes off his helmet and fixes his glasses as he apologizes. "Please forgive me. I'm quite sorry for acting like such a ruffian. I was merely playing into character for the exercise. I assure you that I am no evildoer by any means." As Ida continues to ramble on, Uraraka and Midoriya try to get him to stop by saying that it's fine, but he just keeps going. That is until Recovery Girl arrives. The moment she walks into the room, Recovery Girl looks over Izuku but says that he only needs a little healing, which she quickly does due to Ryu only having minor injuries. After that, Recovery Girl sends them off and heads off to take care of Bakugo, but when she gets to where Kaken is, he's already awake, fairly annoyed that he's tied up. He's also found to have mostly minor injuries too, So he is easily healed and allowed to go to the observation room with his 3 classmates. When they all meet up on the way to the rest of the class, Bakugo immediately starts telling Midoriya off, saying, "Seriously, Ryu, I can't believe you tag-teamed me. This doesn't count as a proper win unless we fight one-on-one, got it? I swear I better not hear you bragging about this." Izuku, feeling a little bad for the trick, apologizes and puts his hand on Kaken's shoulder, calmly saying, "Don't worry, man, I know it doesn't count. I said this wasn't the fight to settle our rivalry, and I meant it. We'll have another chance to fight for real, all right." Ryu then puts his hand out, with Bakugo doing the same, giving each other a fist bump as they continue to walk with Ida and Uraraka to the observation room. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.